The man who lost 25 years of his life for a crime he knows nothing about, but he was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. Not 25 days, not 25 weeks, not 25 months, but a whole 25 years of his life was wasted in prison for a crime he did not commit, but someone else did. And I'm wondering, how was this even possible in the city of Texas? A city with strong judicial system, a city with so many reputable lawyers and judges. How was it possible for them to convict an innocent man to life in prison? Well, I'm going to explain to you how it started and how it ended until he was exonerated and regained his freedom and reunite with his family back. In August 13, 1986, Michael Morton left his home in Williamson County, Texas, believing it's going to be an ordinary workday as usual. He kissed his wife, Kristen, and his 3-year-old son, Eric, and left home around 5:30 a.m. and expected to return home to his family in the evening, as usual after work. But little did he know that his life would turn upside down within hours. When Michael returned home later that day, he met a lot of police officers in his house. They stopped him and asked him a series of questions concerning his wife's death. Before he could even enter inside the house, he was not even aware that his wife was dead until he got home that evening. His wife had been brutally beaten to death in their bedroom while his 3-year-old son Eric watches the scenario. The murder weapon was believed to have been a heavy wooden object, and the attack was so severe that the investigator immediately treated it as a homicide. At first, Michael believed that the police will find the real killer of his wife, because he had been at work all day, all morning until evening. But unfortunately for him, just 6 weeks during the investigation, the police arrested him as a prime suspect for the murder of his wife, without any factual evidence, no eyewitness, no confession, and nothing at all. They built their case based on assumption, without facts. The police developed a theory based on the written note they found, believed to have been written by Kristen, explaining the reason why she didn't make love to Michael on the night of his birthday. Because Michael did not come home on time, despite all the effort she made to make the birthday memorable. They assumed that Michael may have been triggered for that refusal and killed her out of anger, but it was all assumption and not facts, because there was no evidence, not even a murder weapon tied to Michael. But here is another twist that no one talks about. There was an evidence pointing in another direction, but the jury never heard of it. Neither did Michael's defense team know about it, because the prosecutor decided to exclude that important information out of the file. Michael and Kristen's 3-year-old son Eric, he repeatedly told his grandmother that a monster came into the house and killed his mother when his father was not around. Neighbors also reported seeing a suspicious man and a green van parked near Michael's home at the time of the murder. I actually find it very difficult to understand why the prosecutor decided not to take this child confession seriously, but rather they focused on their own assumption instead of facts. These facts suggested that there was an intruder in the house when Michael left for work, yet they were never disclosed to Michael's defense team. The lead prosecutor, Ken Anderson, withheld this important report despite a court requesting that relevant evidence or information should be shared with Michael's defense team. But years later, this decision will become one of the most notorious examples of prosecutorial misconduct in modern American legal history. In February 1987, after a trial based entirely on circumstantial evidence, Michael Morton was convicted of murdering his wife and sentenced to life in prison. As deputy led him away in handcuffs, he repeatedly insisted on his innocence, but sadly, no one believed him. The conviction cost him more than his freedom. His young son was adopted and raised by a noble family, but was fed with the wrong narrative that his father killed his mother. Michael missed his son's birthday, graduation, holidays, nearly every milestone of his son's childhood. Inside prison, he tried to keep hope alive. He pursued education and earned a degree, and he was a well-behaved inmate. He refused to admit guilt, even though acknowledging responsibility will have improved his chance for a parole. But to Michael, confessing to a crime he did not commit would mean surrendering the only thing no one could take away from him, his innocence. Years turned to decades And for about 25 years, Michael's attorney fought tirelessly to obtain DNA testing on evidence that had never been fully examined. Among the items was a bloody bandana discovered near Michael's home shortly after the murder. But prosecutors resisted this request for many years until a judge finally allowed DNA advanced testing. The bandana DNA test result changed everything for Michael Morton. The DNA on the bandana did not belong to Michael, but it matches someone else's blood, and it was none other than Mark Allen, a convicted felon whose DNA also linked him to the 1988 murder of another Texan woman, Deborah Barker. The similarity between the two crimes strongly suggests that the same man had committed both crimes while Michael Morton was already in prison. It took the intervention of John Riley, a private investigator, and others in collaboration with Innocent Project in Texas, who's recently reviewed Michael's case file after many years and discovered an important file that district attorney didn't present to Michael's defense team. And that important file is a police report that contained Michael's son Eric's statements, telling his grandmother that the monster came into the house and killed his mother when his father was not around. In October 4, 2011, after spending about 25 years in prison, Michael Morton was able to walk out of court and out of prison as a free man. 2 months later, he was officially exonerated. For the first time in decades, he felt the sun on his face without the prison wall surrounding him. Freedom had finally arrived, but it could never restore the years that had been stolen. His wife is gone. His son had grown into an adult without him. No court ruling could restore the freedom or the life he has wasted in prison. The search for accountability did not end with Michael's release. A court of inquiry later concluded that the lead prosecutor, Ken Anderson, had deliberately concealed evidence that could have helped prove Michael's innocence. Anderson eventually pleaded guilty to criminal contempt for withholding important evidence. He later resigned from the bench and agreed to surrender his law license. His conduct became a landmark example of how hidden evidence can lead to wrongful conviction. Michael Morton's case also changed Texas law. In 2013, the state passes the law Michael Morton Act into law, requiring prosecutors to provide broader access to evidence in criminal cases. The law was designed to reduce the risk that crucial information will be hidden from defendants, helping prevent future miscarriage of justice. Today, Michael Morton speaks publicly about justice, forgiveness, and importance of reforming the judicial system. Rather than allowing bitterness to define him, he has become an advocate for those who are still fighting to prove their innocence in court. His story is a powerful reminder that the justice system, while essential, is not immune to mistake. When investigators develop tunnel vision, when prosecutors fail to disclose evidence, and when assumption replaces fact, innocent people can lose decades of their lives in prison. Michael entered prison as an innocent husband, grieving the loss of his wife, but yet the law did not even give him a chance to grieve his wife in peace. He walked out of the court as an innocent free man who was vindicated by science. And all thanks to everyone who stood by him, making his victory a reality, especially his private investigators and his defense team and Innocent Project and everyone, his friends and family, everyone. I really appreciate you all. I really pray that none of us will ever be in a situation that it will be very difficult for us to prove our innocence and end up in prison like Michael. He didn't deserve to be in the prison in the first place. Prison is meant for people who commit various crimes and not for innocent people like Michael. But unfortunately, life happens, and I don't wish such life to happen to any of us. And this situation is not applicable to Michael alone, because there are so many innocent people wasting their lives away in prison for a crime they did not commit. To the glory of God, Michael was able to reunite with his son, and he was also compensated with about $2 million. Life is not fair with people in prison, especially if you are innocent of the crime you are being accused of. So he really deserved that money or even more. We have come to the conclusion of Michael Morton's episode. And if there are more people you want to hear that has been wrongfully convicted and sent to jail for a crime they did not commit, stay tuned to this channel because I'll bring them on board.